Okay, let's jump in. We're going to talk about a moment in history that is basically a high-stakes road trip gone about as wrong as it could possibly go.
Right.
We're talking about King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette's secret escape from Paris in 1791.
And this wasn't just them trying to, get away for a weekend. This was a desperate attempt that failed so badly, it pretty much sealed the fate of the French monarchy.
You really have to understand the pressure they were under. By this point, the royal family is basically under house arrest in the Tuileries Palace.
Oh, absolutely. They felt like prisoners. I mean, they were constantly being watched. And Marie Antoinette especially was convinced that if they stayed in Paris, it was the end of the line for them.
So escape was the only option she saw.
It was the only way to save the monarchy, in her eyes, to get out and launch some kind of counter-revolution.
And the plan itself was huge. It took months of secret planning, with help from Count Axel von Fersen, who was very devoted to the queen.
The goal was to get to a royalist town called Montmedy, right near the border.
So they could gather an army, get foreign help, and then march back to Paris to take back power.
The whole thing was just an incredible gamble. Everything depended on perfect timing and total secrecy.
So let's get into that night, June 20th. The family has to sneak out of this huge palace, and they do it in disguise.
Yeah, as ordinary servants.
And the king himself, Louis, who is a pretty large guy, he's dressed as a valet, just a plain coat and a wig.
Just getting out of the building was a huge risk. They had to use a side door that wasn't as heavily guarded, but the problem started almost immediately.
The first big mistake.
A time delay, a huge one. They got out, but they were already several hours behind schedule before they'd even gone a mile.
And that delay leads us to maybe the most baffling decision of the entire escape, their ride.
Oh, the carriage.
You'd think they'd want something fast, right? Something discreet.
You would think. But instead, they chose this enormous custom-built coach, a Berline.
Explain what that is. This isn't just a normal carriage.
No. This thing was basically a mobile living room. It was incredibly heavy, built for comfort, and they packed it with luggage, silver dining sets, food.
So it was slow.
Painfully slow. It was only moving at about 7 miles an hour. It tells you everything, really. The king was still thinking about his comfort, his dignity, over the actual success of the mission.
And that slowness created a terrible domino effect.
Exactly. Because they were so late, the soldiers that were waiting for them along the road started to get nervous.
These were troops meant to protect them.
Right. And they're waiting for hours in the dark in towns that are not friendly to them. Eventually, they just assumed the plan was off. Many of them just left their posts.
So the route, their safe passage, now has huge gaps in it.
Huge gaps. They're in a slow, obvious carriage on a route that is no longer secure.
The whole thing is just set up for disaster. And even with the disguises, people started noticing this very suspicious, very wealthy-looking group.
And that brings us to the moment, the turning point. They stop in a small town called Saint-Médard.
And the king makes a fatal mistake.
He does. He peeks out the window. Maybe he was impatient, maybe he was just checking on something, but he looked out.
And someone saw him.
Someone saw him. A local postmaster, Jean-Baptiste Drouet.
How did he know? I mean, a disguise, a quick glance.
This is the amazing detail. Drouet recognized the king's face because he had seen it hundreds of times on the paper money.
On the assignats?
Yes, the very symbol of the king's authority is what gave him away.
Wow.
And Drouet knew something was wrong. This group just seemed too anxious, too desperate to get going. So he decides to act.
He can't follow that carriage on the main road. It's too slow for him to catch up properly.
Right, he knows the area. So he gets on his own horse and takes a shortcut, a rough path right through the woods to get ahead of them.
And his destination is the next town.
Varennes. He knew that if he could get to Varennes first, he could cut them off.
So the royal family finally rolls into Varennes late that night, June 21st. But by then, the plan is, it's just in pieces.
Total tatters. The soldiers they were supposed to meet weren't there. There was confusion about where to meet them. The delays had thrown everything off.
And then it gets worse.
It does. While they're looking for these missing soldiers, the drivers get completely lost in the dark streets of the town.
So the huge carriage just stopped.
Grinds to a halt right in the middle of town. And that gave Drouet just enough time to ride in and sound the alarm.
And the townspeople react instantly.
They do. They know they have to stop this carriage. So they drag anything they can find, old carts, furniture, barrels, and they block the bridge out of town.
They literally build a barricade.
They walled them in. The escape was over.
What happens then? The confrontation.
It's tense. And for the king, deeply humiliating, they're forced out of their fine carriage and held in the back of a local grocery shop.
And Louis finally admits who he is.
He does. He tries to, use his royal charm. He says he loves France. He was just trying to keep his family safe.
But nobody's buying it.
Not at all. They see a king who tried to run away. They decide to hold him there until they get orders from Paris.
And soon the National Guard arrives and makes the arrest official.
The dream is just crushed. You have Marie Antoinette, who is reportedly just devastated, crying all night. The kids are exhausted, confused. They're watching their parents' entire world crumble, held captive by shopkeepers.
And then comes the return journey to Paris. 4 days. And if the escape was secret, this was the exact opposite.
A total spectacle of humiliation. The carriage is surrounded by thousands of people.
Just regular citizens.
Coming out from villages to shout at them, to mock them. It was a parade of shame.
And the conditions must have been awful.
It was hot, it was stuffy, but they had to keep the windows open. The angry crowds demanded to see for themselves that, yes, the king was really a prisoner.
When they finally get back to Paris, the mood changes again. It's not loud anymore.
No, it's silent. The government had put out an order. No cheering, but also no booing. The result was this: eerie, terrifying silence as they passed.
And there was one other detail, a huge sign of disrespect.
Yes. As the king's carriage went by, the men in the crowd pointedly kept their hats on.
Which is a big deal.
A massive deal. You always took your hat off for the king. It was a sign of respect, almost of worship. To keep it on was to say, you are not my king anymore, you are just a man.
Louis himself apparently said that the silence scared him more than all the shouting.
Because it meant they hadn't just lost control. They had lost all respect. The magic of the monarchy was broken.
And politically, this event just changes everything. Before Varennes, a lot of people in France still believed the king was on their side, that he supported the revolution on some level.
But trying to flee and raise an army against your own country, that was seen as treason. Pure and simple betrayal.
And didn't he leave a letter behind?
He did, foolishly. A long letter basically explaining how he rejected the entire revolution. That letter just confirmed everyone's worst fears.
So this is the moment people start thinking maybe we don't need a king at all.
Exactly. The idea of a republic, a country without a monarch, suddenly becomes incredibly popular. It gives all the ammunition to the radical groups, like the Jacobins.
And the government and the National Assembly, what do?
They panic, basically. They suspend the king's powers immediately, but they don't know what to do next. And this causes a huge split. The radicals want him removed and put on trial. The moderates are terrified.
So this didn't just break the king's political power, it shattered his image.
Completely. The king was always seen as this sort of father of the nation. After this, he's a joke. Political cartoons mocked him mercilessly.
He becomes a traitor, a fool.
Yes. And that emotional shift is critical. It proved to people that power shouldn't come from royal blood. It should come from the citizens. It made the king's trial and execution, which happened a couple years later, almost inevitable.
So really, the flight to Varennes was the point of no return. Any chance of a peaceful constitutional monarchy died on that road.
It did. It showed that the king would never truly accept the revolution. And it proved that the revolution couldn't be stopped. It was really the moment the monarchy died in the hearts of the French people, long before the guillotine fell.
Makes you wonder what would have happened if they'd just picked a faster carriage.
Good luck with your studies.